is just this region. So if you walk,
they're not talking about Australia. They're not talking about the Americas.
they're not talking about any of this. I think if you could query Moses, hey, like Moses, can you give me a list of like the whole earth? He would say, come on, you dunderhead. It's Genesis 10. You know, I'm already done with that. So the biblical context itself needs to be observed when we think about the Bible. Yet if we let the Bible be what it is, it has nothing to say about people in North America, South America, New Zealand, wherever it is. So we shouldn't force it to. It by design, it's not about that. It's not about them. It's not about these other places. This is not in the purview of what's going on. Now that's a very simple thing to observe, but that's usually not the way people are taught to think about the whole earth, you know, when they're reading in Genesis. They don't really define it by a verse that's actually in the Bible.
Yeah, and I think it really is kind of our particular culture and history and why we read it. And I was raised a young Earth creationist, right? There's a history that goes through, you know, Henry Morris and young Earth creationism, and even Ken Ham and people like that, all the way back to like the flood geologists from just 150 years ago. It's fairly recent; it doesn't go that far back. And so they really want to interpret Earth as the globe,
right? Which is to be expected.
That's really how they understood the world back then. Not right. It doesn't mean that they were all flat earthers. It just means that they weren't using that word as a plan.
I mean, and look at that. Look how easy it is to look at a word or a phrase as a modern reader and assume your context for what the Bible is saying. I mean, it's very easy. You impose your context on this phrase. And if you do that, if you're taught that, you know, well, I have to do this because otherwise I'm not a Bible believer. Okay, well, again, it's a very odd way to characterize it. But again, in my tradition, this is how we were taught. We take the words of Scripture seriously. Well, I still do. But it's like if I were an ancient Israelite and I saw the whole earth and I'm reading Genesis 9, and in a minute or two I hit Genesis 10, I'm not thinking what people in the 21st century are thinking.